All right, so today we're going to deep dive into fish keeping,
Ooh, yeah.
setting up your first aquarium and making sure your fish are happy and healthy.
Yeah.
So we have a few sources here. We've got this great beginner's guide from the Reddit fish keeping community,
Okay.
and we have articles on goldfish care, stocking an aquarium, and the nitrogen cycle, which is super important for fish keeping.
Absolutely.
And I guess before we get into the nitty-gritty, I'm just going to throw out a few of the interesting things that I saw in here just to pique everybody's interest.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
So one is that goldfish can live a really long time. One of these articles talks about a goldfish that lived to be 4 years old.
Wow. Yeah, they're not just disposable pets like people tend to think.
No, not at all. And another thing is the 1 inch per gallon rule is totally a myth.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So we will get into that, but don't go by that.
Yeah.
And another really important thing is that you need to cycle your tank before you add fish.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're throwing a bacteria party before your fish even arrive.
That's a great way to put it.
That's what we're doing today.
Yeah, a little welcome party for the bacteria
Exactly.
to make sure the environment is safe for the fish before they get there.
Yep. So I think one of the biggest themes that I saw in all of these sources is making sure that we're being really kind to our fish.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not just about the aesthetics. It's about really understanding the needs of these living creatures and creating an environment for them that is humane and
Yeah, and making sure that they're not just alive but thriving.
yeah, exactly.
So I guess let's start with this Reddit guide,
Yeah.
which talks all about
Okay.
setting up the tank. And it says research, research, research. That's like the first thing.
Absolutely. It's tempting to want to rush out and buy everything,
Yeah.
but really taking the time to understand the needs of the fish
Yes.
that you want can make all the difference.
Right. And it's not just like, oh, I want a cute fish, so I'm going to get that fish.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, how big is that fish going to get?
What kind of tank do they need?
Yeah. What kind of filtration? What kind of...
What kind of water parameters do they thrive in?
Yeah.
You know, are they compatible with other species?
Yeah. And they give this great example in here about coolie loaches, which I thought were like these tiny little fish
Yeah.
that you could have in like a 5-gallon tank.
Right.
Nope. A minimum of 30 gallons for just 3 fish.
Yeah. That's a good example of how sometimes our perception of a fish
Yeah.
doesn't match their actual needs.
Totally.
A little, research beforehand can save you a lot of trouble down the road.
So yeah, don't think that a small fish
Yeah.
equals a small tank.
Yeah,
That is not the case.
absolutely.
And speaking of what fish need, let's talk about the nitrogen cycle.
Oh, yeah, the nitrogen cycle. That's a big one.
That sounds scary, but it's actually
It sounds really intimidating.
right. But it's not that bad once you understand it.
No, and Aquarium Co-op has this amazing M&M analogy that really simplifies it.
Okay.
So basically think of ammonia, which is the waste product that fish produce. It's toxic to them, right? That's like the yellow M&M.
That's okay. Super toxic.
Super toxic.
Got it.
Then you've got nitrites, which are a little less toxic. Those are like the brown M&Ms.
Okay.
And finally, you have nitrates, which are the least toxic of the bunch. They're like the blue M&Ms.
Okay. And so a cycled tank has enough bacteria to convert that waste
Exactly.
all the way to the nitrates.
They're the blue M&Ms, yeah.
Got it. And then you get rid of the nitrates through water changes in plants.
Through water changes in plants, exactly. So those are your 3 kind of stages of the nitrogen cycle. You've got the super toxic ammonia, the less toxic nitrites, and then the least toxic nitrates. And a cycled tank means that you've got enough of those beneficial bacteria to convert all the way to nitrates, and then you manage the nitrates separately.
Okay. So it's kind of like you're throwing a welcome party for
Yeah.
the good bacteria
Exactly, you're setting the stage.
before the fish get there.
Yep.
Cool. So we've got the tank, we've got the filter,
Yeah.
we've got our water cycling. Now we want to get some fish.
All right, let's talk fish.
Okay, but hold on. Let's debunk another myth.
Okay, hit me.
The 1 inch of fish per gallon rule?
Oh, that's a classic.
Right.
But it's so misleading.
Yeah, it's completely wrong.
Because it doesn't take into account the unique needs of different fish species.
Like their personalities.
Exactly.
Could be
Their
some-
shapes, their activity levels.
Do they like to swim a lot?
Yeah, some fish are really active. They need a lot more space to move around.
And some need to be in school.
Exactly. And some fish are solitary and they need their own territory.
Yeah. And you have to think about how big the fish is going to get.
Absolutely. You don't want to get a cute little catfish that turns into a tank-busting monster
Right.
6 months down the line.
So that cute little catfish
Yeah.
might be really cute when it's tiny. But if it's going to grow to be a foot long, it needs a bigger tank.
Exactly. Research is key.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 1 inch per gallon rule, throw it out.
Gone. Out the window.
So we were talking about goldfish earlier.
Okay, yeah.
Let's dive into that because these articles have a lot to say about goldfish.
Yeah, they're a fascinating species.
And they need way more space than we think.
Right. So much more space than people typically give them.
Like way more.
20 to 25 gallons per fish is a good starting point.
Per fish.
Per fish.
So if you have a little 10-gallon tank,
yeah,
you really shouldn't put a goldfish in there.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
And they also need horizontal space, right? Because
Yeah.
they're active swimmers.
Right.
So a wider tank is better than a taller tank.
Okay.
Give them that room to stretch their fins.
Cool. Now, this is something that I thought was really interesting
Yeah.
from the Goldfish Care article, is that you don't necessarily need to rely on test kits to know when to do a water change.
That's right. They actually talk about visual and olfactory cues, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah.
So if you see foam on the surface of the water,
Okay.
that's a sign that you need to do a water change.
Okay.
Or if you smell ammonia.
Oh, really?
Yes, it has a very distinct smell.
Oh, wow.
And if you start smelling that, that's another sign that it's time for a water change.
So your nose is the test kit.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
It's like a built-in sensor.
And don't be afraid to do big water changes.
Yeah, the guide mentions that experienced breeders do big water changes all the time to keep the water pristine for their goldfish.
Okay.
So it's not something to be intimidated by.
Interesting.
It's actually beneficial.
So what is a big water change?
Well, 50% or even more sometimes. It
Yeah.
really depends on the situation.
Okay.
But it can be really helpful in maintaining good water quality.
So you just take out half the water.
Yep.
And then put it
And replace it with fresh, dechlorinated water.
Cool.
It's like hitting the reset button on your tank.
So it sounds like Goldfish Care is all about being observant and proactive.
It is. It's about reading the signs, understanding their needs, and responding accordingly.
Okay. So we've talked about how much space goldfish need.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about feeding them.
Okay, feeding. That's another crucial aspect of goldfish care.
And I know a lot of people overfeed their fish.
Oh, yeah. It's a common mistake.
Yeah?
People think, oh, my fish looks hungry. I'm going to give him more food.
Yeah.
But that can actually lead to a lot of problems.
Like what kind of problems?
Well, overfeeding can lead to cloudy water.
Okay.
It can pollute the tank. It can also lead to unhealthy fish.
Right.
They can become obese. They can have digestive problems.
Right.
So it's really important to feed them the right amount.
So how much should we feed them?
Well, John Parker, who's a goldfish expert, suggests feeding them 2 to 5% of their body weight daily.
Okay. So we got to weigh our fish.
I know it sounds a little strange, but it's the best way to make sure they're getting the right amount of food.
So we have to take our goldfish.
You can use a small scale.
Put it on a scale.
Yeah, there are scales specifically designed for weighing fish.
Wow.
So you can weigh them, figure out their body weight,
Okay.
and then calculate 2 to 5% of that.
Wow, that's really precise.
It is, but it can make a big difference in their health and well-being.
So portion control even for our fishy friends.
Absolutely. It's better to slightly underfeed than overfeed.
Okay.
That's a good rule of thumb.
So we've got this tank set up.
Yeah.
We've got our goldfish in there, thriving,
Happy and healthy.
swimming around. Now we want to add some friends.
Okay, let's talk tank mates.
And I think this is where a lot of people make mistakes.
Yeah. Choosing the right tank mates is crucial for a successful community tank.
Yeah. And it's not just about, oh, these fish look cute together.
No, definitely not. It's about understanding their temperaments,
Yeah.
their compatibility, their water parameter needs.
Yeah. And this Reddit guide gave this really sad story
Yeah.
about bleeding heart tetras.
Yeah.
And they were put in with pygmy cories.
Right.
And the tetras kept nipping at the cory's fins.
Yeah. Which is a big no-no.
Yeah, that's so sad.
It is sad.
So yeah, you can't just put any fish together.
No. Research. We've got to know who plays well with who.
Yeah, and actually it turns out goldfish should probably just be with other goldfish.
Yeah, they can be a little bit aggressive towards other species sometimes.
Oh, okay.
And they also have specific needs that are best met when they're with their own kind.
Okay.
So goldfish with goldfish is usually the best bet.
So you're saying I can't have like a goldfish and a betta in the same tank?
Probably not a good idea.
Okay.
They have very different temperature requirements and temperaments.
Got it.
It's best to stick with compatible species.
So if you're going to have multiple fish in a tank,
Yeah.
Make sure that they're not aggressive.
Exactly.
And they have similar water parameters.
And they get along, basically.
Got it.
You want to create a harmonious community.
Yes.
Where everyone thrives.
Okay. Now, a lot of people think that they need algae eaters in their tanks.
Right. The algae eater myth.
Yeah. So what's the deal with algae eaters?
Well, the classic algae eater is the common pleco.
Okay.
And a lot of people think, oh, I'll get a pleco, it'll keep my tank clean.
Right.
But here's the thing. Plecos actually prefer to eat wood.
What?
Yeah. And they get huge.
How huge?
Up to 2 feet long.
Oh, my goodness.
So if you put a little pleco in your 10-gallon tank, it's going to outgrow that tank very quickly.
Right.
And it's not going to eat all your algae.
So what should people get if they want an algae eater?
There are some great alternatives.
Okay.
Salt and pepper corridors are good.
Okay.
They're little catfish that do a great job of cleaning up algae.
Right.
Otocinclus catfish are another option.
Okay.
They're tiny, and they love to munch on algae.
So cute.
And nerite snails are great, too. They're very efficient algae eaters.
Okay, so there are options.
There are definitely options. Just do your research and choose wisely.
Okay, so we've talked about setting up the tank,
Right.
cycling the water, stocking it. Now let's talk about maintenance.
Okay, maintenance. That's the ongoing part of fish keeping.
So how do we keep our tanks clean without, killing all the bacteria?
Right. That's the key, finding that balance.
Yeah.
You don't want to over-clean.
Right.
Because you need those beneficial bacteria to maintain the nitrogen cycle.
Right. Right.
But you also need to keep the tank clean for the health of your fish.
So what's the right approach?
Well, regular water changes are essential.
Okay.
Like we talked about earlier, 25% every week or two is a good starting point.
Okay.
You can also vacuum the gravel to remove debris.
Okay.
And you can wipe down the inside of the tank with an algae scraper.
Okay. But don't go overboard.
Exactly. Don't scrub everything down with soap and bleach.
Right.
That will kill all the good bacteria.
Okay. And what about medications?
Medications are a tricky topic.
Yeah.
It's important to do your research and only use medications that are specifically designed for fish.
Okay.
And you want to use them sparingly.
Right.
Don't just throw medication in there at the first sign of trouble.
Right.
Often, the best course of action is to improve water quality and let the fish's natural immune system do its job.
Okay. And this Reddit guide talks about Melafix.
Right.
Which I guess is a popular...
It's a common medication.
Yeah, but it actually hasn't been proven to be effective.
Yeah, there have been studies that show that it's not really effective in treating many common fish ailments.
Interesting.
So it's important to be critical of marketing claims and really do your research before you use any medication on your fish.
So always research before medicating.
Absolutely.
And I think that kind of goes back to the overall theme of being kind to our fish.
Absolutely.
So all of these decisions that we make, from the size of the tank, to the tank mates, to how we clean, to the medications we use.
It's all about making choices that are in the best interests of the fish.
Right. And it's not just about keeping them alive. It's about making sure that they're
thriving.
Thriving, yes. Happy fish tend to be healthy fish.
Exactly.
Right.
When you create an environment that meets their needs, they're going to be much more resistant to disease.
Okay, cool.
So it's a win-win.
It is a win-win.
For both you and the fish. You know, it's really interesting how much these sources talk about the importance of space.
Yeah.
It's not just about meeting those bare minimum requirements.
Right.
It's about giving them room to really exhibit those natural behaviors and just really thrive.
I love that.
Yeah.
So how do we make sure that we're giving them enough space?
Well, I mean, we already talked about the whole 1 inch per gallon rule being a myth. So it's not about a simple formula.
Right.
It's really about looking at each species and really understanding their needs.
So we should probably err on the side of giving them more space.
Yeah, I would say so.
Than they need.
Absolutely.
Rather than trying to cram.
Yeah, don't try to maximize the number of fish you can fit in there.
Yeah.
It's not a clown car.
Right. And it's not just about the square footage either.
Right. Different tank shapes are better for different fish.
Okay.
For example, goldfish.
Yeah.
They love to swim horizontally.
Okay.
So a wider tank is going to be much better for them than like a really tall, narrow tank.
Yeah, it's like giving them a ranch house instead of a
prize. Yeah.
That
Give them that horizontal space to really move around.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Now, something else that I thought was interesting was these sources talked about making sure there are places for the fish to hide.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Even though they don't have predators in the tank.
Right.
It's still important for them to feel secure.
Yeah. I think sometimes we forget that fish have,
Yeah.
emotional needs as well. They need to feel safe.
Yes.
They need to feel like they can escape.
Yeah, it's like they need their own little bedroom
Yeah.
to go and chill out.
They need their own little space to de-stress.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So what are some things we can do to make those spaces for them?
You can use plants, rocks, driftwood,
Okay.
caves.
Oh, okay.
You know, there are all sorts of cool decorations.
Oh, yeah, those little, like, sunken ships.
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly. So
Yeah.
you can get really creative with it.
Speaking of plants,
Okay.
let's talk about plants, because these sources are really big on live plants.
Live plants are amazing for so many reasons.
I'm ready to hear all the reasons.
Okay. Well, first of all, they're beautiful.
Yeah, they really make the tank look nice.
They add a natural element.
Yeah, it's like bringing the outdoors in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But beyond just aesthetics,
Okay.
they're also really beneficial for the health of your tank.
Okay, how so?
Well, plants actually absorb some of those excess nutrients from the water. Yeah, they can help keep those nitrates in check.
So they're like little filters.
Yeah, they're like little natural filters.
I like that.
And they also release oxygen into the water.
So they're like oxygenating the water.
Exactly. So that's a win-win for your fish.
They're doing all the work.
They are.
We just get to enjoy it.
Yeah, you just get to enjoy the beauty.
So it sounds like plants are a really good addition to any tank.
I would say so.
Now let's talk about water parameters, because we
Yeah.
mentioned pH before.
Right, pH is important.
But what other parameters do we need to worry about?
Well, we've talked about ammonia nitrates, nitrates,
Yeah.
making sure those are in check through that nitrogen cycle.
Yeah.
But there's also things like water hardness and alkalinity.
Okay. I don't really know what that means.
So water hardness basically refers to the amount of dissolved minerals in the water.
Okay.
And alkalinity is a measure of the water's ability to resist changes in pH.
Okay, so basically we just need to make sure that the water chemistry
Yeah, it's all about balance.
is right for the type of fish.
Exactly. Different fish have different preferences.
Got it.
Some fish like soft acidic water.
Okay.
Some fish like hard alkaline water.
Okay.
And if you don't match those parameters
Yeah.
to the needs of your fish,
Right.
they can become stressed. They can become susceptible to diseases.
So how do we know what our fish need?
Research is key.
Research.
Yeah, you got to know before you even buy the fish
Right.
what kind of water parameters they prefer.
So we can look that up online.
Yeah, absolutely. There are tons of resources available.
Cool.
And then you can test your water
Right.
to make sure that it matches.
Okay, and if it doesn't match, then what?
There are ways to adjust it.
Okay, so we can...
There are products you can buy to raise or lower the pH.
Okay.
You can adjust the hardness and alkalinity.
Got it.
So there are ways to manipulate the water chemistry.
Cool. So it's like we're becoming little chemists.
We are water chemists.
Okay, so we've got our water parameters figured out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now let's talk about the fishless cycle, because you mentioned that earlier.
The fishless cycle is a game changer.
Okay, tell me everything.
Okay, so basically
Right.
the fishless cycle is all about setting up your aquarium,
Right.
establishing that healthy colony of beneficial bacteria.
Right. The good bacteria.
The good bacteria that convert the ammonia to the nitrates to the nitrates.
Yes, the heroes of the aquarium.
And the fishless cycle is all about doing that before you add any fish.
So why is that better than just putting the fish in and letting it happen naturally?
Well, when you put fish in right away,
Yeah,
they're exposed to those really high levels of ammonia.
right. Because they're pooping.
They're pooping, they're producing waste,
Yeah.
and that ammonia can be really harmful to them.
Right.
So the fishless cycle is all about protecting those fish.
So it's kinder
It's a much kinder approach.
to do it this way.
Absolutely.
Okay, so how does the fishless cycle work?
It's pretty simple, actually.
Okay.
You set up your tank, you get your filter running,
Okay.
you add a source of ammonia.
Okay, where do we get ammonia?
You can use pure ammonia drops,
Okay.
or you can just use fish food.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the fish food will decay and produce ammonia,
Got it.
and then you just wait.
We do wait.
You monitor the water parameters,
Okay.
you watch the ammonia levels rise,
Okay.
and then fall as those bacteria colonies develop.
So it's a waiting game.
It is a waiting game,
Okay.
but it's worth it.
But it's worth it because it's healthier for the fish.
Exactly. You're setting them up for success
Right.
in a healthy environment.
Okay, cool. So the fishless cycle is basically just letting the tank do its thing.
Letting those beneficial bacteria do their thing
Exactly.
before we introduce any fish.
I like that.
Yeah, it's like preparing the soil before you plant a garden.
Perfect analogy.
You want to create that healthy foundation
Okay,
for
fine.
your ecosystem.
Okay, now let's talk about water changes, because I think that's something that a lot of new fish keepers are intimidated by.
Yeah, water changes can seem daunting.
Yeah, how often do we need to do them?
Well, it depends.
It depends?
It depends on the size of your tank,
Okay.
the number of fish you have,
Okay.
how efficient your filtration is.
Okay.
So there's no hard and fast rule.
Right.
But as a general rule of thumb,
Yeah.
most tanks benefit from a partial water change of about 25%
Okay.
every week or two.
Okay.
So that's a good starting point.
Okay. 25%
Yeah.
every week or two.
Exactly.
So we don't have to like empty the whole tank every week.
Oh, no.
Okay, good.
Partial water changes are much better
Okay.
because they help to remove those accumulated waste products,
Okay.
replenish those essential minerals,
Right.
and just keep those water parameters nice and stable.
So it's like a little refresh.
Yeah, it's like hitting the refresh button on your tank.
Okay, so how do we do a water change?
Well, you want to do it slowly and gently.
Okay.
You don't want to shock your fish.
Right.
So you can use a siphon
Okay.
or a gravel vacuum to remove water from the bottom of the tank
Okay.
where all the debris tends to collect.
Right.
And then you slowly add fresh dechlorinated water.
Okay, so the key is to do it gradually.
Gradually and gently.
Okay.
Minimize stress for your fish.
Yeah.
It's all about creating a stable and comfortable environment for them.
Okay, so water changes are important.
They are one of the most important things you can do
Okay.
to maintain a healthy aquarium.
I'm getting the sense that fish keeping is all about being like really observant
It is.
and paying attention.
It's about being proactive.
Yeah.
It's about understanding your fish's needs
Right.
and making sure that they have everything they need to thrive.
So it's not just like a set it and forget it kind of hobby.
No, definitely not. It's an ongoing process,
Yeah.
but it's a rewarding one.
Now let's talk about lighting, because that's something I always struggle with.
Okay, lighting is important.
What kind of lighting do our fish need?
Well, it depends on the type of fish you have.
It depends.
Of course. But there are a few different options.
Okay.
Fluorescent lights are popular.
Okay.
They're relatively inexpensive.
Right.
They provide a good spectrum of light for plant growth.
Okay.
LED lights are becoming increasingly popular.
Yeah, I've seen those.
They're energy efficient, they last a long time,
Right.
and they offer a really wide range of color temperatures.
Ooh, so we can like set the mood.
You can set the mood exactly.
I like that.
You can create different effects in your aquarium.
So it's not just about how much light,
Right.
it's about the color of the light too.
Yeah, you can create like a really warm sunrise effect
Oh, cool.
or like a cool moonlight effect.
I like that.
So you can get really creative with it.
Cool. Okay, so lighting's important.
Lighting is key.
Now let's talk about something that I think a lot of people don't think about,
Okay.
which is backup power.
Oh, backup power is crucial.
Okay, why is that so important?
Well, what happens if the power goes out?
Oh, right. The filters stop working.
The filters stop working, the heaters stop working.
Right.
If you have fish that require specific temperatures,
Yeah.
a power outage can be really dangerous for them.
So what can we do?
Well, there are a few options.
Okay.
You can get a battery-powered air pump.
Okay.
Those are great for providing oxygen
Okay.
in the event of a power outage.
So the fish don't suffocate.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can also get generators
Okay.
that are specifically designed for aquariums.
Wow. I didn't know they made those.
They do. They're a great investment.
Right.
If you have a larger tank or if you live in an area with frequent power outages,
Right.
they can keep your filters running, your heaters running,
Okay.
even your lights running for an extended period of time.
Okay, so we have to have a plan
Absolutely have a plan.
in case the power goes out.
Be prepared.
Okay, now speaking of being prepared,
Okay.
let's talk about fish first aid.
Oh, yeah. Fish first aid is important.
Okay, so just like we have a first aid kit for our human family,
Right.
we should have a fish first aid kit.
Absolutely.
So what should be in our fish first aid kit?
Well, some essentials would be aquarium salt,
Okay.
stress coat,
Okay.
water conditioner,
Okay.
things like that.
And what's a quarantine tank?
Oh, a quarantine tank is a separate tank
Okay.
that you can use to isolate a sick fish.
Oh, okay.
So if one of your fish gets sick,
Yeah.
you can remove them from the main tank,
Okay.
put them in the quarantine tank,
Yeah.
and that helps prevent the spread of disease.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, it's like a little hospital tank.
I like that.
So you can treat the sick fish
Yeah.
without affecting the rest of your community.
So being observant, being proactive, being prepared.
Those are the keys to successful fish keeping.
Yeah, it's all about creating a healthy and happy environment for our fish.
Exactly. And remember, if you're ever unsure about something,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to reach out to more experienced fish keepers or a veterinarian.
Right. There's a whole community out there.
There is a wealth of knowledge and support available.
Awesome. Okay. So I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We've gone from setting up the tank to maintaining the tank to even treating sick fish.
So we're pretty much experts now.
Well, I wouldn't say experts.
Okay, almost experts.
So we're definitely on our way.
So we're back and ready to talk more about fish keeping.
All right, let's dive back in.
So now that we know all about setting up our tank and making sure the water is good
Right.
and having the right fish in there, let's talk about aquascaping.
Ooh, aquascaping. That's where the creativity really comes in.
Yeah, because I've seen these tanks online and they're like
Yeah.
works of art.
They're like underwater gardens.
Yeah.
It's amazing what people can create.
So where do we even begin with aquascaping?
Well, I think the first step is to have a plan.
Okay.
Just like with anything else, you don't just start randomly throwing things in there.
Yeah.
You want to have a vision.
Okay, so like what kind of look are we going for?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you going for a minimalist Zen garden?
Okay. Are you going for a lush Amazonian rainforest?
Okay.
There are so many different styles.
So we pick our style.
Pick your style.
And then what?
And then you start choosing plants and hardscape materials that complement each other.
Okay.
You want to create a sense of harmony.
So it's like interior design.
It is. It's underwater interior design.
Okay.
It's all about creating a visually appealing space,
I like that.
but also functional.
Right.
You want to make sure it works for your fish as well.
Yeah, we don't want it to just be pretty for us.
Right.
We want the fish to enjoy it too.
Exactly. So you want to consider the needs of your fish when you're choosing plants.
Okay.
For example, some fish like to burrow. So you need to make sure you have the right substrate for them.
Okay.
Some fish might be sensitive to sharp edges.
So just be mindful.
Be mindful
for the fish.
of their needs.
Okay, cool.
So aquascaping is all about finding that balance
Okay.
between aesthetics and functionality.
Make it pretty, but make it work.
Okay. And there's no right or wrong.
There's no right or wrong, exactly.
Okay, so just go for it.
It's all about expressing your creativity
Cool.
and creating a unique underwater world.
Speaking of creating an underwater world,
Yeah.
let's talk about decorations.
Ooh, decorations.
Because I feel like that's where it can get really fun.
Yeah, you can really let your personality shine through.
Right, because you can get all those little like divers and castles and
Castles, pirate ships.
yeah,
Sunken treasure chests.
I love those.
It's so much fun.
But is there anything we need to be careful about?
Yeah, there are a few things to keep in mind.
Okay.
First of all, make sure the decorations are made from non-toxic materials.
Right, we don't want them leaching chemicals into the water.
Exactly.
Okay, and then what?
And then you want to look for decorations that are free of sharp edges
Okay.
or small holes that fish could get trapped in.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you don't want your fish getting stuck.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
So just use common sense. Okay.
And make sure that the decorations you choose are safe for your fish.
Okay, so non-toxic smooth edges.
Exactly.
Oh.
And remember, less is often more.
Okay.
You don't want to overcrowd your tank.
Right.
A few well-chosen decorations can make a much bigger impact. Okay, so being observant, being proactive, being prepared.
Those are the 3 pillars.
Yeah, it sounds like those are the themes of fish keeping.
Absolutely. They're the keys to success.
Okay, well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground.
into fish keeping, yeah.
We went from setting up the tank to maintaining the tank,
Right. Choosing fish.
choosing fish, treating sick fish, aquascaping.
We did it all.
We did it all.
So hopefully everyone feels a lot more confident
Yeah.
about setting up their first aquarium.
Yep.
And most importantly, making sure that their fish are happy and healthy.
Happy and healthy. That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive,
It was a pleasure.
and we'll see you next time.
Happy fish keeping, everyone.